Hi, everybody. Can I have your attention really quickly? So Esther is missing her sheet with her remarks on it. It was on this table up here. It was not a handout, but we think it accidentally got picked up. So if you're holding a piece of paper that looks like it's a speech, if you could please return it to her. Give it back. Otherwise, she'll have to wing it. Oh, Diane is the culprit.
There's the door prize.
Let's see if we can begin here. Go ahead. Well, good afternoon. I think I know all of you, but in case I don't, or in case you've forgotten who I am, I'm Reverend Angela Wells Bean. I'm our Minister for Congregational Care here at Naples United Church of Christ. I'm thrilled that you're here this afternoon for this important conversation in which we will learn specifically about how the affordable housing crisis is affecting the seniors in our community. I said a few weeks ago that Naples has a reputation for being a community with a lot of wealthy senior citizens, and that is one truth. But another truth about our community is that we have a lot of vulnerable senior citizens as well, and we certainly need to give more attention to this problem. So we're going to hear from two guest speakers today. But I am up here introducing myself because part of my role as the Minister for Congregational Care is that I'm the clergy liaison to our Justice Committee. And this is an initiative that they have taken on this year, is casting light on the affordable housing crisis in Southwest Florida in many different ways and how it's affecting different populations. And so I would like to invite you to our program in March 27th, actually a month from today, in which we will learn about the planned affordable housing development at the former Golden Gate Golf Course. And we'll have two guest speakers from that. We'll have Steve Kirk from Rural Neighborhoods and Eileen Connolly-Kiesler from the Community Foundation. And that has not broken ground yet, although it's been many years in the works. So we'll get an update. And then in April, we're going to have a really important conversation about how this housing crisis is affecting our families with children. We sadly have a lot of families with young children who have insecure housing in this area. And so that'll be our April focus. If you are not on our church mailing list, there's a clipboard going around. Please put your contact information down and you'll get on our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated of all those programs that are coming up. And I also want to draw to your attention the materials on these two tables right in front of me. Lots of really good and important handouts. One that I want to specifically highlight, which is if you are really frustrated by this crisis, then there is a handout with tangible ways to contact your representatives and reach out to them and who they are in your district and what to say. So it makes a really big difference reaching out to our elected leaders so that they know that their constituents really care about this. So please do take that and take a look at the other materials here as well. I think that's enough from me. I'm now going to introduce Jen Walker. She's the chair of our Justice Committee, and she will introduce our guest speakers.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Angela. Welcome to the fourth in our series of programs on affordable housing in our community and its impact on all of us. Some of you may have attended the January 11th Workforce Housing Forum that we co-sponsored with Greater Naples leadership here at the church. It was in the sanctuary, and we had about, 400 plus in the sanctuary in person and another 100 on Zoom, so that was pretty impressive. You can still see the recording by going to our church website, archived programs, or going to the GNL website. I encourage you to watch the program because it becomes very obvious that all our employees, somebody's trying to tell me about something about coming. I encourage you to watch the program because it becomes very obvious that all our employees in governmental services have been impacted by this lack of affordable housing. I did want to bring to your attention that we have wonderful bumper stickers down here right in front. We want workforce housing in Collier County. That's thanks to Linda Penniman and her army of volunteer individuals who are trying to get the message out. You may hear more about that from Michael. I thought Linda would be with us today, but I do have a bunch of those bumper stickers, so help yourself. These are, also we are finding that the letters that many of you have written to the county commissioners are beginning to have some effect, at least they're answering them. The new commissioner, Chris Hall, who is the liaison with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, put much needed zoning changes on the agenda for the commissioners' meeting for March 14. He originally promised for February 14th agenda, then it slipped to the 28th. Now it seems to maybe be slipping to March 28th, and Michael will probably have an update for us. We can see that this may be a ploy to keep it off the agenda until we all forget about it. But Joe Trachtenberg has challenged the commissioners. You remember he's the chair of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. He has challenged the commissioners pretty forcefully. I have a copy with me of his letter, and I'd love to read it to you if you're curious. He's challenged them directly to put it back on the agenda for March 14th. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to watch that. If you care about affordable housing, I invite you to send a letter to your commissioner and to Chris Hall, Commissioner Chris Hall, because his role is liaison to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and demand action. Enough of the talking, enough of the promises. Let's do something. We have copies of all the addresses in the document that Angela mentioned, and when we see it finally on the agenda made public, we will want to marshal lots of residents to come into that meeting and speak in support of this and other necessary changes. So if you care, be sure that you have signed up with your email address on the sign-up sheet that's going around, and we'll make sure that you get the word. Our Justice Committee has been producing these monthly programs that take a deeper look at the impact on specific portions of our community. And tonight we're going to, this afternoon, it feels like tonight we're going to specially look at one of our most vulnerable groups, senior citizens. Some may be working, and if you remember, if you were at the housing workshop, forum, you would have seen a video of an older woman who works as a clerk at Ace Hardware. We call her Darlene. I don't know her full name, but she wanted to remain somewhat anonymous. It was heartbreaking. And I had hoped to show it, but she's a little reluctant because she's embarrassed about her housing situation. She doesn't really care to spread it further. You could see it, though, if you get the recording for the workshop, for the forum. Some may be working, some may not, but our two speakers today are uniquely qualified to tell you what seniors need and what services and future housing may be available. Our first speaker is Esther Lully, director of the Golden Gate Senior Center, a wonderful little gem on Golden Gate Parkway next to the community center. It's kind of a hidden gem, I think. She has more than a decade of nonprofit experience in the community and holds degrees in management and leadership and practical theology. I didn't know there was such a thing, but she could tell us about that. Since you received her bio in writing, I won't go into more detail, but I know the center's board were very happy to have her assume this position in 2021, and she'd already been very active with other nonprofits in the community. She will be followed directly by Michael, and Michael, I always stumble over your last name, Pohala, Executive Director of the Housing Development Corporation of Southwest Florida. HELP is the acronym, that provides services for those in need of housing and also oversees the Collier County Community Land Trust. Michael spoke to us last March about the community's housing needs that inspired us to take on this critical issue for the entire year. He has some good news for us today, but it's just a drop in the bucket. Since you also have his bio, I won't go into his background further, except to say that he certainly knows the business of real estate and insurance. We'll hold all questions until after both have made their presentations. Since the program is airing over Zoom webinar, please come forward to the microphone in front of me at the front of the room so our remote audience can hear the question as well as the answers. I'm sorry that we won't be able to take questions for the remote audience. So now we're going to go to a video, and do I need to turn this off, Tony?
Older adults in Collier County are living in isolation and loneliness. They have estranged relationships with family. They have friends that are passing away. They're scared. They're afraid to even reach out to connect with other people who may lead them to the right resources.
Seniors are rapidly becoming more and more victims of crimes. With isolation and loneliness, they want to talk to whoever shows up at their door, whoever calls them on the telephone, and ultimately they get lured into something that they just never wanted to be a part of.
It is our duty to extend a hand out to the elderly, who are some of the most vulnerable people in our community, and offer them a place where they feel welcome, where they feel like they have a reason to wake up in the morning. So these seniors may have lived isolated lives in the past, but since coming to the Senior Center, they are not living isolated anymore. It's just an organic feeling, a vibe, energy, or spirit, whatever you want to call it, that people feel here. And I think it's because they're all on a similar journey together, and it's just so comforting for them to feel like, well, there's a place for me. When people walk in, they feel the energy, they feel the electricity, and that's the type of change and difference that we offer to make in the lives of our seniors. Our Direct Assistance for Needy Seniors program provides up to $550 for the most vulnerable in our community who face an emergency beyond their control. This can cover medical bills, electric bills, rent, eyeglass prescription, gas and transportation, and other basic needs our seniors cannot afford. Here in Collier County, many of our seniors depend on Collier Senior Center as an important source of food. Through our partnership with Meals of Hope, we have a weekly food pantry where seniors can stock up on canned goods, fresh vegetables, and ready-to-cook nutritious meals. Every day, we offer a hot lunch program through Collier County Community and Human Services, ensuring that all our members get at least one hot meal a day. One of our most important efforts is to create a sense of human connection and the feeling of community and belonging. That means a lot of socializing. We have robust dominoes rivalries, opportunities to be winners at bingo, and field trips, all with outside community partners. When seniors come here, I can see them laughing, smiling, moving, and interacting, and that gives them a sense of hope and a future. It is truly a joyous and uplifting, and I can see a renewed zest for living. At any given time, we offer many more diverse programs tailored to our seniors with over 10 community partners.
That's why CSR is so important, because it brings people together, it provides opportunities for support services, information on crime prevention and safety, and overall it improves the quality of life. That's why I support CSR, and I hope you will too.
We are making such an amazing difference and great impact in the lives of older adults and their caregivers here in Collier County. And we would like for you to join us in continuing this life-changing work that we're doing here in the lives of seniors. You can help us make a difference and even a greater impact to so many people for many, many more generations to come. Thank you. Good day, everyone. My name is Esther Lilly again, and I have the privilege of serving the Collier Senior Center as the Senior Center Director. Before I continue, I would like to thank Ms. Jennifer Walker and the entire Justice Committee of Naples United Church of Christ for inviting me with the opportunity here to be with you all today and to speak about the seniors and the housing crisis. Thank you to my board members who are here to support me, along with their spouse as well. As you all witnessed in the video, the Collier Senior Center is a haven for over 1,800 registered members, along with their caregivers, who depend on our services, resources, and program to help enhance the quality of their lives. Some unite at the center for the fellowship to combat isolation, depression, and loneliness when their caregivers are not at home, or because their significant other of 50 years has transitioned on, and they need to socialize with their peers and surround themselves with activities that will stimulate their minds. Otherwise, it is through physical activities such as chair yoga, Zumba, dancing on every celebratory event like holidays and birthday parties, and sometimes just because. On a continual basis, we provide educational activities, seminars that are catered to their needs to keep them well-informed about resources. At the center, they feel valued. They are seen and heard. The respect that they receive makes them feel dignified. Let me be clear again, the work that we do at the center is not done on the strength of just 4 full-time employees. Remember, we are strengthened by the pillars within our community, such as the Richard M. Schultz Family Foundation, the Moorings Park Foundation, Collier County Foundation, the Collier County Commissioners, particularly Commissioner Bert Saunders, AARP Job Placement Program, Collier County Senior Nutrition Program that serves a hot meal to seniors Monday through Friday, the generous donors, and many more local community partners. I can go on, but you would ask me to get off the stage. And with all that I just mentioned, can you believe that there was a time when there was no senior center in Naples? Until Collier Senior Center was founded, Collier County was the only county in Florida without any type of senior resource center, despite having one of the highest populations of women and men over the age of 65. Kind of ironic, huh? We're talking about Naples. Thanks to the dedicated work of Collier Community Foundation and the Women's Philanthropic Network, to meet the needs of low to moderate income seniors, our organization was founded in 2010, providing virtual resources to seniors and their caregivers, and in 2014, we opened up our doors. Back then, we were known as Collier Senior Resources at the Golden Gate Senior Center, and thanks to the help of an insightful consultant, we rebranded our name to Collier Senior Center in 2022. Now, I want to emphasize why the discussion on seniors is so important. According to the NCOA, which is the National Council on Aging, older adults age 65 plus are one of the fastest growing groups in the nation, expected to reach 80.8 million by 2024. Florida, amongst 3 other states, had the highest percentage of population age 65 and older in 2020. Compared with their peers, senior centers participants have higher level of health, social interaction, and life satisfaction, and lower levels of income. According to the Area Agency on Aging for Southwest Florida, 36.6% of Collier County's population was aged 60 years, and 7% of these were men and women were living below the poverty level, which is $11,880 in annual income. By 2030, some 38% of Collier County's population will be over 65 years of age. For older Collier County residents living at or below the federal income that I mentioned, which is $11,880, finding basic services is a frightening and frustrating experience. Now, you may wonder, what does all the statistics have to do with housing? And I will share more. In February 2018, Collier Senior Center launched the Direct Assistance Program, which is available to Collier County residents 60 years of age or older, living within the 175% level of the federal poverty level, providing one-time financial assistance for medical prescription, eyeglasses, rent, mortgage payments, durable medical equipment, gas cards, and additional items on a case-by-case basis. In 2022, our Direct Assistance Program assisted 330 cases, resulting in a 258.7% increase from 2021. Most of the cases were for rental or mortgage assistance and medical help. The average rent in Naples, as you may have already heard and done your own research, went up 38% from 2020 and 31% in 2021. Many of our seniors rely on a fixed monthly income to sustain their needs. Due to the inflation escalating rent rates, seniors are severely cost burdened. I have sat in on many meetings about the housing crisis and how it negatively impacts the working class. And let me tell you, seniors are often left out of the conversation. A few months ago, I had a senior in my office who was seeking affordable housing due to her rent increasing. I started making calls to see how we could assist her in finding shelter. Finally, I connected with someone from a senior living apartment complex, and they informed me, oh, Esther, we can go ahead and send you the application to assist her with it. However, it will be a 3 to 6 year wait. I said, she said it as though she was sharing good news, and I was baffled by it. And I thought to myself, what hope is there for a fixed, low to moderate income senior here in Collier County? Together, of course, we can empower and uplift our seniors. Every time the conversation about affordable housing is mentioned, I encourage you to ask the question, what about our fellow senior citizens? The housing conversation is important, especially as it relates to seniors. The private-public coalition plans to build affordable housing in this county on the Golden Gate Golf Course, and they are alive and well, and they also involve major players. They're trying to create an atmosphere in Collier County where it is acceptable to build homes. And when that project comes to its full fruition, it will be a lifted burden for so many of our seniors. Not only will they finally have affordable shelter, but less than 2 miles away, Collier Senior Center will be their home away from home, where they can fellowship, be enriched with wellness services, engage in continuing education to enhance the quality of their life while empowering them to maintain independent and meaningful lives. Thank you for this opportunity.
That is good stuff. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Puhala. I've been here before, Jen reminded me. So back again, and really appreciate the opportunity, as always, to get an invitation to come out and speak about housing. I come with a little bit different perspective because there's been a lot of needs studies. There's been a lot of conversations around the need. But I'm overseeing 2 organizations that hopefully we're starting to be a little bit more part of the solution. And I'm going to talk today, if the slideshow gets going. Is it up? There it is. I'm here on behalf of the Collier County Community Land Trust, which I am the acting executive director of. And we're excited about a first project that we're working on that is specifically for seniors that I'm going to get into and share all of the details with. I hope you're as excited about it as I am. But I wanted to start with a little background on what a community land trust even is. And honestly, this all started back all the way in 2017 when we had the Urban Land Institute come in and do an assessment. A lot of individuals within the community were part of a stakeholder group. It started in 2016. It resulted in this 53-page assessment. And one of the recommendations, there were 35 in total, one was that, hey, you should have a community land trust, and that's really going to help you with stewarding land, trying to lock up some land in perpetuity for housing development that has affordability components. So our organization, I'm hitting my microphone. My main organization that I've been running since 2013 as the director is the Housing Development Corp of Southwest Florida. We do business as HELP, which stands for Housing Education and Lending Program. So we are working as a local HUD-approved housing counseling agency dealing with individuals that are either seeking housing, that is suitable, or they're trying to retain housing. So we do both sides. We can help people that are facing an eviction or a foreclosure, but obviously we're working a lot with first-time buyers, but also renters that are just trying to find something that is suitable for their needs, for their income level. As you can imagine, the phone's been quite busy the last couple of years. You throw a pandemic and a hurricane in, and it adjusts some people's ability to be able to afford housing. So in 2019, right before the pandemic really even started, we agreed to supply a proposal to launch the Collier County Community Land Trust. So as you can see up here, but the history is coming up next. Let me start with what a land trust really is. They are nonprofit, community-based organizations, and they're designed to ensure the stewardship of land. As I mentioned, a lot of times you hear land trust and we think preservation, but also land trust pertains to affordability for housing. And it can be used for various types of development. Not everybody knows that you can actually set up a community land trust to do retail and commercial, but the primary focus is on ensuring long-term permanent affordability for prospective buyers and or multifamily development, because we can acquire land and we can recruit in developers specializing in housing affordability, which we're going to talk about our exciting project. It's exactly what happened. And in that way, you're going to have permanent affordability. It can also serve, and in fact, this development is where we are serving as a general partner in a development. So the land trust can not only be a part of the land, but we can serve as a partner, local preference for that developer, but also provide a lot of services and be kind of the community liaison. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So it's really broad in scope, can be multifamily rental, can be single family home ownership. And we are looking to attack this thing in that multifaceted approach. So again, back to the history, October of 2019, we were awarded the proposal to launch a land trust. And we incorporated on January 2nd, 2020 as the Collier County Community Land Trust, Inc. And right during COVID, March 25th, we had our first Zoom meeting with the prospective board, and we elected our officers and we ratified the bylaws. And then November, it takes a long period of time before you're recognized by the IRS as a tax-exempt corporation. So that was about a 11-month period, but as of November 18th, we were excited to receive our 501c3 designation as a tax-exempt corporation. So what we did kind of is decide to jump headfirst into this thing. And so our first project is a multifamily affordable senior rental development. And it is with an affordable housing developer who has already had some experience in Collier County. If you've heard of or seen the workforce housing development that's taking place right by Calusa Elementary School, that is McDowell Housing Partners. It was a 5-acre parcel of land the county owned. They owned it for a number of years, and it took about 5 years for them to put together a proposal and get somebody to come in and do something with it. So now it's an 82-unit workforce housing development using all of these various financing mechanisms to retain long-term affordability. They, at the same time, were working on this 2-phase senior rental development, and it was on land that was already zoned for senior. It just needed to add the affordability component. So they already had ownership of the land, but they were looking for a local partner, a nonprofit partner, to assist. And so we came on board. Florida Housing Finance Corp approved our role, and here we go. So it's a joint venture partnership. It is designed specifically for seniors, and because of some of the financing mechanisms that are in place, it's a 62-plus community. I know sometimes we'll see some developments are 55. This one, because of the usage of homes for the aged funding, it does require 62-plus as the age limit for the property. And it is independent living. So this is not an assisted living facility. There will be many resources that come to the community. I'm really excited that Esther's here because a lot of the things that they do, we were certainly going to be looking for community partners to bring things into the development so people don't even have to leave the community to be able to get certain resources. The first phase, Allegro, is going to include 160 dwelling units, as will the second phase, which is Cadenza. So they're mirror image phases with 160 units per, so a total of 320 units, all will be affordable. I'm going to show you the affordability in a little bit and tell you exactly what that means. It is ideally located near medical facilities. So this property is in the Hacienda Lakes Community Development District, which is just west of 951 Collier Boulevard on Rattlesnake Hammock. And so it does have good proximity to Physicians Regional. It has good proximity to Publix and a pharmacy. And I don't know if you could put anything in Florida that's not somewhat close to a Walgreens or a CVS. So we do know that there's good proximity there as well. And then parks and open space, not far south from the Paradise Coast Sports Park. So there is opportunities for seniors to be able to go out to the park, and still not too far from the senior center either. So we just have to sneak up 951, cut across Golden Gate. So we're excited about the proximity to a lot of various resources. The rents and individual incomes are both capped. So individuals will have to income qualify in order to be able to live here, but they are 100% of the units are affordable for an individual, that's deemed affordable for an individual making no more than 60% of the area median income, and they're reserving 10% of the units, a minimum of 10%, for extremely low income seniors, so individuals making 30% or less of area median income. And I know we throw that around a lot. I actually brought a chart to define what does that mean. So in the next slide, you're gonna see what that looks like for Collier County, which I think is important. We need to have context. And because the developer had already had this project in place, we didn't go out and find the land. They already had ownership of the land, but again, they brought us in as a general partner. For us to be involved, we wanted to ensure there was long-term affordability, and that is guaranteed in this through a 50-year land use restriction agreement, what we call a LURA. So that affordability will be attached to this development for 50 years, which is a great thing for our community. A little bit of history, January 2022 was the official closing of all of the financial documents. And I don't know how deep anybody wants to go, but just to give you some idea of why it takes an experienced developer to handle a project like this, I think the total development cost for the first phase was $46 million. It had a multitude of financing resources. We're using the 4% low-income housing tax credit program, along with multifamily tax-exempt bonds, along with the SAIL program, which is the State Apartment Incentive Loan Program. Then there was a small portion of ELI, which is the extremely low income funding, all of those available through our state housing finance agency. So Florida Housing Finance Corp makes these competitive bids open for various financing mechanisms. You can layer them and come up with the resources that you need to build a very, very nice complex, but still keep your rents affordable. It's the only way this thing works. You have to have the resources to pull it together. In some cases, you might have local gap funding. This development did not need that because the developer was able to secure enough resources to make it a reality. So it's really an exciting project. March 2022, we had groundbreaking for both of the phases, along with Harmony, the 82-unit workforce development I referenced. So they did all three at one time. And just as far as dates, I'll tell you a little bit. I'm going to show you some progress of the development, but the hope is that we'll have this thing ready for lease up by fall. It could potentially, I don't want to be too optimistic, but maybe late summer, applications will start to be taken, but this is a this year project. But it has been in the works. They started their applications for financing in 2019. So it takes time. But we're here, and we're going to see the progress in just a little bit. They brought me back up on my screen. There we go. So as promised, what is area median income? This chart comes directly from Florida Housing Finance Corporation. These are the 2022 figures. They won't post 23 probably until April, potentially early May. It kind of varies. But we work from this chart up until they tell us we have new figures for the upcoming year. So these do adjust annually. If you look over on the far left side, that median income for Collier County, that was the 2022 figure for a family of four. So that's the 100% area median income of $98,600. We're a unique community in that we do have a lot of individuals who may be retired and have passive income. So this is not employee income. This is not working household income. It is accumulation of all of the income that comes into the county, including passive income. So if you looked at what does the average working household make, it's probably closer to $59,000, $60,000. But this is the number that we work with. It does allow for the development community to set rents at a level that make deals easier to pencil, but it also may cause rents to be even out of the, even an unaffordable development, a little higher than some households can afford. It's the give and the take. But as you can see, our percentage categories range from 30% to 140 in the Florida housing chart. I added 60% because that's the LIHTC income category that we kind of focus on, the low income housing tax credit program. So I wanted you to get a chance to see what that income level would be for Collier County that we're currently working off of. So that 30%, Those are the 10% of the units are reserved for this income category. You see a one-person household just under $20,000. 60%, you're looking at just under $40,000. Now, what does that mean for rents? On this particular development, based on the 2022 figures, here's the breakdown of the 160 units. Because it's senior, we're focusing on 1 and 2 bedroom units, a lot of 1-bedroom units. It's just, it's a easier fit for a lot of individuals that, even if it's a couple, a 1-bedroom might suit the needs. 11 units reserved for that extremely low income population, and the rents are looking at $531 per month based on a 2022 figure. That's a brand new 1-bedroom apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Then 80 units for the 60% AMI, the 1-bedrooms, and those would rent at $1,062 based on current figures. And then the 2-bedroom units, we have 8 reserved for that ELI category, $637 in rent, and 61 units of 2 bedrooms for the 60% AMI category, and those would be currently at $1,273 per month. So that's the most expensive rental unit in the development for the first phase Allegro. Those numbers can adjust if the 2023 figures come out, and if we've had a decrease in area median income, the rents would come down accordingly. If it happened to go up a little bit more, the rents may slide slightly, but it's not like the market rate increases that we're seeing. It's all based on HUD's figures. So that's the total mix of the 160 units, and it'll be a mirror image for the second phase. Here were some rendering photos, and I actually brought in the broad scale rendering. We just happen to have these made, so I like to show them off. But we have some pictures up on the slide as well. Front of the building, the overall project. As you can kind of see, and up on the slide, it's 2 buildings. This particular parcel of land was zoned for 7 stories. The developer was able to do it in 5. So there are 2 5-story buildings done in 2 phases, both of which contain 160 dwelling units. But if you really, once you get to see this, I've seen some of the other work from this particular developer, and it looks very much like their renderings. This is going to look just like a market rate development. There's no corners have been cut. It's just a matter of finding money from different places to come up with the same level of overall development cost as a market rate project. Because we're finding those subsidies and programs that are designed specifically for affordability, you can still keep the rents at an attainable level and not have to charge market rate rents. So here are more recent. I do have this particular picture was taken in December, and you can see it didn't even have the 5th floor on it. It was still at 4 stories. I was out 2 weeks ago, and these are the current progress photos. So all 5 stories are there. I was able to get inside and look. All of the wiring is being pulled in, the plumbing is being put together. So again, we're really looking to have this project completed this year, lease up hopefully in the fall. What role does the Community Land Trust play in this? There's a few things that we're going to bring to the table for the developer and for the community. We're acting as a local project liaison and a representative. So I'm here today. I'm talking about it. The developer was going to try to get somebody over, but they're based out of Miami and they're very busy. So we want to tell the community that this is possible. This is happening. This isn't the only developer that wants to do affordability in Naples. I've spoken to at least 5 that have experience doing these types of projects, not just all senior, but a combination of workforce and senior. And they're just looking for the right incentives and the right zoning to come into play. And I'm going to get to Jen's comment about earlier about some of the things that the BCC is working on and where we can be advocates. We're going to continue to provide market research and tenant outreach. We obviously are engaged with a number of nonprofits, including the Hunger and Homeless Coalition, St. Matthew's House. They're consistently providing us data on the number of individuals that potentially could be facing homelessness, that are being priced out of their units, and the list is quite long, unfortunately. This is what I've heard, just a drop in the bucket. The Hunger and Homeless Coalition made a comment that 320 units, yeah, we'll take those, and if you've got any more, we'll fill those all up immediately, and we could definitely use a few more just for seniors, because that has been the largest population that they've seen an increase in homelessness and people at risk of homelessness. Because the income level, it's hard to, if you're retired, it's hard to go out and get a better job. How do you increase the income? It's fixed. So when the rents go up as astronomically as they have, it becomes a very dire situation. We're also going to assist the management company, which it is a very large-scale, experienced property manager called Weller Management, and they've already have somebody locally established who will be our project manager. And we've been communicating to make sure that they know exactly what we can bring to the table, and we're going to assist with identifying and implementing services. As like I said, Esther just got us really excited about community services that are available for seniors, we want to bring a lot of that on site. We want to have opportunities for our residents to travel out and go to the community center and other locations, to the park, and do things within the community, be active, even volunteering. We love to get seniors active and engaged in volunteerism. It's just a very important and fulfilling activity. The one thing that we do have conversations with the county about is bringing a senior feeding program on site using the community center, because it's going to be a brand new, nice facility. And so we've engaged and had some conversations about that. So then our residents would be able to, again, have at least one meal every day of the normal work week. And lastly is assisting with identifying and income qualifying applicants through our HUD-approved agency. We've been doing income certification for many years, and we certainly can help to get those individuals the documentation pulled together and help to make sure that all the monitoring, because the one thing that's important to note when you're dealing with an affordable development that's utilizing state and federal subsidy, the monitoring aspect, people often question, well, how do we know that the property is actually being lived in by who we were told will be living there? You don't get away with lax monitoring if you're using tax credits. The tax credit investor is monitoring every year to make sure that their dollars aren't going to be at risk, that they acquire tax credits for a 10-year window, and that developer better be keeping up with the monitoring and the compliance that the state requires so that those tax credits don't end up coming at risk. This particular development, I believe, has $16 million in equity from the sale of the tax credits to a corporation. So it's a big source of the revenue, and it requires very substantial monitoring and compliance. I think that might be it for me. Yes, so I'm definitely get to questions, but I did want to address, as we were talking about land and zoning changes and permitting. It's one of the biggest topics when we talk to the development community about is how do we, not necessarily a price point, but how do we access land that is viable for multifamily development. Rental is not the be-all, end-all. I did mention we want to do home ownership, and we're doing some things with partnering with Habitat and some other builders who want to bring that to our community as well. But we have such a rental shortage for extremely low and very low income population. So how do we find land that's suitable for a higher density development that's already zoned? And that's a big challenge, because a lot of that land has already been built out, and that's what developers tell me. They would struggle with that. And if they have to ask for a zoning change, a density bonus to change, that takes several years with our current standards in place. So the changes that are part of this land development code amendment, and these are the last 4 things that the ULI recommended, and they've been pushed off for a year or 2 now. I think there's a lot of positive language in there. It helps it defines what our affordability means, and it's definitely housing that is suitable for individuals making 80% or less of area median income. So they've defined the affordability, and in order for for a developer to come in and get a change from commercial, agricultural, and industrial land without having to go all the way through the entire process, it becomes a permitted use for multifamily development with that level of affordability. So it's a huge deal. These developers are excited to be able to come into the community if this does get passed. Whether you believe it's right or wrong, we just encourage you to come out and at least hear what's going to happen with the commission, and we do believe it's going to get on in March. And I'll tell you what, if it doesn't, there's a lot of new language coming in. Senator Pasadoma was strongly in favor of the Live Local Act, Senate Bill 102. If you haven't heard about this, I recommend you look it up. It was introduced January 26th. It passed the Appropriations Committee and the Community Affairs Committees already. It's going to the Senate floor in March, and they want to make it effective July 1st. And it's providing a lot of financial assistance for our state housing finance agency to provide more resources to developments like this. But it's also putting a lot of impetus on local governments to enact code changes like we're talking about. And if they don't do it, the state is recommending that they could take control and say we need to have some codes in place to allow commercial conversion to multifamily affordability, because it just makes sense in a lot of the areas within communities like ours. There's not a lot of available land that's close to working district. So sometimes we have to look at commercial space that's maybe not being utilized to its fullest and say, if we may allow that change automatically as long as we're getting the affordability we need. So I'll say no more. That's a lot of what we're going to be hearing about, and what we would strongly encourage everybody to come and support. Okay.
Okay, 62-year age and up, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so no children.
Absolutely. That unfortunately, and I know
Okay,
that's a sticking point, but
I
yes, it's not allowed.
Partial two-bedroom and partial one-bedroom. Why not expand the capacity by making them all one-bedroom? What's the logic behind two-bedroom?
You can still have visitors. So for a married couple, 62 plus, that uses one of the rooms, you can't have permanent, but you can still have visitors come. And so just to keep it a...
That's nice, but that's not, my opinion, a good use of a very urgent asset.
And we rely upon the developers to do their market research.
Is
and
this
that's
so that they can flip it to condos?
Absolutely not. No, again, with the 50-year affordability, and this developer stays in it long term, so it's required to remain an affordable rental community for a minimum of 50
Well,
years.
I live in a 50-year-old condo, good shape, and like a couple other places around town, they convert. I was just curious. I just was so surprised to see two-bedroom units when we're trying to maximize capacity for people. That's all.
Absolutely. No, I completely understand, and it's a great question. And I know that the developer has done a ton of market research, and they did find that there was some demand, for two-bedroom units. So it's a conversation that I actually was intrigued by myself. And you could be right in that long-term marketability, but again, at least we've got the 50-year minimum, and a lot of these developments will actually, there's a preservation movement. There are investors that come in and maybe halfway through the life usage, 25 years in, you might see an investor come in and get more bond financing, do a renovation, and push it out to another 50 years of affordability. There's an entire subset of investors that's what they do, and that's what we're going to try to encourage as well. Preserving the developments that already have affordability locked in, we want to extend that, and we want to have them come in and get renovated. So they are, I don't have the exact numbers, but they're at, I think, 600-ish square feet for the one bedrooms and 750 to 800 for the two bedrooms. Yes. Yeah, please. Or I can repeat them. If you're more comfortable sitting, I'll be happy to repeat the question. Yes.
Michael, this is 320 units. What you've done a study, what is the total market demand?
It's a very good question. We didn't do the study, but it was done, and I don't remember the exact. The market research analysis study on this was over 200 pages in total. But for seniors, it was well over 1,000 fixing. I mean, I think that if we, just drawing from Esther's slides, over 8,000 seniors. 800. I thought I saw over 8,000 seniors that were living below in Collier County, potentially below the poverty level. Yeah. So I mean that's just. 8,036 or something was the number I saw that we were living below the poverty level within Collier County. So that just gives you an idea of the population that we're looking to serve. We do get calls every day. I don't want to say every day, but between the Hunger and Homeless Coalition has mentioned how many people have come to their office, and they're just trying to find an opportunity because you have a lot of seniors that have been long-term renters in condo units, townhomes that somebody owned, and as that market has gotten to a point where it's too tempting for people to sell. And so those units, all of a sudden, the unit they've been renting for 12, 13 years, I just saw it on Nextdoor today. The exact thing. Somebody passed away. The estate is looking to sell the property, and they just don't know where to go. A married couple that was, she said, in their low 70s, great tenants, but they have, and this is in the Bonita area, but they just have no idea where they're going to find a unit that's even remotely close to affordable based on their fixed income. Yes, sir.
I heard from several sources, and including Michael Overway, who's the executive director of the
Hunger and
Homeless Coalition, that the increase in homelessness is greatest in the senior population in recent years. Why is that? What happened?
Well, the big part of it, and I'm sorry, my voice is already starting to give out, but it is just these rental increases, as I mentioned. So many people are living, if you're living on fixed income, and the rents explode at the rate that they do, you just don't know where else to go. You don't have the opportunity to find additional income, as I mentioned. It's just that's my explanation. I don't know if you have any other thoughts or.
No, it's a little bit of that, and then if their spouse, if there used to be a household income, and now their spouse is no longer there, you know, it puts a burden on the other one financially. So there's a variety of reasons why, but rental. Can you hear me? Yes. But I was agreeing with Michael in light of the rental, but also we have to keep in mind that, for example, seniors who used to be 2 household income, a spouse passes away, now they're functioning, trying to do life on their own. So it's a little bit of, people's passing away. The rent plays a huge role, of course, with the increase and why we see with seniors, and especially the hurricane that took place, right?
Yeah.
We had some seniors who lost their mobile homes. So and I remember getting some phone calls from Mike saying, hey, can we assist to put them in a hotel, whatever? And there were no rooms in a hotel. So, I mean, it was just a very unfortunate situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One last point on that, because it's, excuse me, not just the rental market, but even seniors that are homeowners, the impact of insurance costs right now has been rather staggering as well. Increases in homeowners association fees that are related to insurance costs. That's forcing a lot of seniors to not be able to afford the home that they even own. So that can lead to a foreclosure. That can also lead to homelessness. So it's kind of a double-edged, it's a double
Variety
whammy.
of issues.
It's homeownership and rentals.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What are the specific incentives that the developers need? And do the commissioners make the full decision on that? And who would be stopping that? Would it be the commissioners or some third party?
It's a great question, and I'll repeat it. It's, the question was, what type of incentives do developers need to be able to come in and do projects like this, and where that's being held up? Who makes the ultimate decision? Is it the commissioners or a third party? And the answer is there's a number of the incentives, the financing incentives we mentioned, those are not local level. But what is necessary is, as I mentioned, land that needs to be zoned properly. If you want to do multifamily development, you have to have enough density. So you have density bonuses. That's a huge thing for a developer. It adds to the affordability level. So if you can bypass the zoning requirements that take 2 or 3 years, but certainty in the process is a big one as well. Just knowing that if I do my pre-development plan and I invest money, and I find out 2 years later that it gets denied, there's a frustration level there, and that's going to drive developers out of the community. They're not going to come back. The other thing that I know has been talked about a lot is impact fees. Is there a deferral program that matches up with the low-income housing tax credit program? What we have found with this, that's one of the last hurdles that needs to be cleared on this particular development, is that there's a 10-year deferral program available for affordability, but the investor that's behind the loans in this requires 15 to 18 years before they're going to be out of the deal. It reaches its stabilization, and they get bought out. So they're going to require that those impact fees, if there's a possibility they could be due in 10 years, they have to be put in escrow up front. So you're talking about $1 million+ that the developer has to have in the escrow account, unless that there's a way to extend that deferral program up front, or in the case of what sounds like it's going to be happening, there's another program that will help to pay those impact fees on this particular deal. But it's a one-off. It was a COVID-related program, so it's not something that's permanent. We need to fix that impact fee program as well, because it's a big deal.
The impact fees, okay, that would be, if I understand it, that would be less tax revenue to the county?
The impact fees are specifically for infrastructure, what the infrastructure usage would be. I don't think they look at it as a tax, but agreed, it's less revenue.
So the bottom line, if people that have the means want more housing for the seniors and the more workforce housing, that would increase the taxes. Why wouldn't that just flow down? And nobody wants their taxes increased.
Of course.
But on the other hand, somehow we're going to pay for it. Okay, so what's the thought process with the commissioners?
Well, so far, all I can tell you is that it's something they've asked county staff to go and look at. And I have heard that they are definitely working on the impact fee program. They want to make sure that we don't start stealing from the impact fee program on a lot of different developments, but where they're trying to make it work is on the amount of development you're talking about is so minimal. I didn't mention this in my presentation, but these 3 developments by McDowell that are including the tax credits and all these multitude of financing subsidies, they're the first of their kind in Naples since 2005. We have not had anybody come in and do a tax credit, a USDA, anything that has income restrictions and has the subsidies since 2005 in Naples. There's been a few in Immokalee, But that's an 18-year window. So it's not as though we're talking, if you say, okay, we need to, that's the point. We need to come up with a tweak potentially to incentivize and encourage more development like this. And this isn't the only thing we need in the county. When we talk workforce housing, there needs to be a different model. You need to have some income levels that are a little bit higher. 60% AMI doesn't work for a two-income household. So we know that we need to be looking at broad spectrum, but we still definitely need, this is the type of development needed for fixed income seniors. We need to encourage people to come in and develop. And the impact fee program, it needs to be addressed. Supposedly it is being looked at it's a part of a workshop that's supposed to take place. I don't have the exact answers. I know that it's a program that our community is extremely attached to.
Michael, thanks to you and Esther for coming out today to talk to us.
Thank you.
Perhaps this has already been answered, but given the answer to the question that this gentleman over here asked, which indicates that these projects represent only a small portion, satisfying a small portion of the actual need, what plans are there beyond these to go further in this direction?
Well, I think Esther referenced the Golden Gate Golf Course project. There's another 100 units being developed there for seniors, specifically for fixed income seniors, with I believe 10% set aside for veterans, or at least special needs.
Yes.
So, you know, that, and it's just something that needs to be encouraged on all. There's a number of, as we start talking about this more, as we start creating these incentive strategies, and if we get the BCC to pass these development code changes, I've already been approached by, as I mentioned, 5 developers, and I think that, I don't want to say that overnight we're going to come up with the solution for all of the need, but the interest of the development community to come into Collier County because they see the demand. You want to come into a community that has a high demand because you want to have your developments rented. You want a low vacancy rate. Everybody has done the market research, they know the need. So there are definitely individuals and developers waiting to come in and provide more of this type of development, but we do have to get the incentive strategies right. So I can't tell you that there's another 10 that are guaranteed to come online, but the interest is definitely there.
I have 2 questions actually, but I'll ask just one first. What's the basis of income for the land trust? Is it mostly people donating as part of their will or endowment, or is it, or developers come in and spend their own money?
For the land trust, in terms of there's 2 components. So as we get involved with a development like this, and because of the role that we play, there are opportunities for us to have our own sustainability. We create revenue through co-developer fees. So those dollars do come in. We do play a role, and we do get income from being involved in development. The philanthropic piece is growing immensely. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'll do it anyway. The Community Foundation has been extremely interested in bringing together more opportunities like the golf course, and they're looking at it at a bigger scale. So they are looking at, as I mentioned, a housing alliance that can serve as kind of that nonprofit catalyst to encourage more development. So philanthropy is a part. You've got the business community that is very much interested in getting involved, and you've heard some of the employers doing some of their own things. But if we had an opportunity for them to really dig into and say, we can help to make sure that this comes together, you've got the banking community, banks and lending institutions. They have Community Reinvestment Act requirements through the FDIC. They need to invest a certain amount of money every year into housing affordability. So again, if you give them an opportunity to get involved, you're going to see the investment. There's a community tax credit program. I was just mentioning to somebody earlier, they're increasing that through the Senate bill. Individual businesses can offset a portion of their sales tax and their corporate income tax by investing locally in a development. It's a 50% write-off of that tax. So it's a tax credit specifically for the local community rather than going through the state and a low-income housing tax credit. It's called a community contribution tax credit program. The Senate bill is going to increase that amount by over $11 million if it gets passed. So a number of ways that you can generate the funds that are needed at the local level. We have a local housing trust fund. The county government has a housing trust fund, and they haven't put a dedicated funding source to it yet. Some other communities have started using general revenue, have started looking at other opportunities to annually put money into that trust fund and then look for good projects to where they can do local contribution. Because that type of incentive, we call it gap funding. If a developer comes in and they figure out all of the financing resources they have available, and because of land costs, because of construction costs, they're still short by $2-3 million to make the deal pencil. If you have a local pool of funding, to close the gap, that deal is going to get off the ground. If not, it might get shelved for a little while until costs come down. So I hope that helps answer the question.
That's great. That's really good. My second question is a little bit more political. You said Kathleen Passidomo, I know she's our senator, is very interested in this, and it appears the legislature is. What about the local, more political? Like, is the town council, the city council, are they sort of in alignment that this is a good idea? What's the political scenario? I'm just curious.
Verbally. Yeah, to a person, yes. There's been a lot of conversation. We've been attempting to get a workshop for a while to get through, all the things that. But it's been progress. I mean, I don't want to bash any. There's been steady progress, and we get it. This is not the only order of business for the community. Especially when a hurricane comes in. There's a lot of things that that can distract the commission from staying focused on housing affordability. So we can't expect it's the only thing that they're dealing with. But we definitely want to see these LDC changes get through. I think it's at least get on the agenda for conversation. I think that's what the AHAC has been, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee has been asking. Let's at least get it on the agenda and see what the temperature of the commission is.
Okay. I had a couple of questions, and I'll lay them on, and I know some other people want to ask some questions too. I'd like Esther to tell us a little about plans for growth, because I think you had some plans for expanding the Golden Gate, the Collier Senior Center. I keep calling it the Golden Gate Senior Center. And I think that's great if you could tell us a little about what you hope that will mean in terms of additional services. And if all these seniors are in your neighborhood, you're going to have more people coming there, which is great. And then for you, Michael, I just wanted to ask if you would explain what happens to when developers have come in the past with plans where they're going to have 10% of the complex of their luxury apartments are going to be for affordable. Do they stay affordable? Are they ever affordable?
Good question. All right.
You go first.
I know, right? As Jennifer mentioned, yes, we do have some plans to expand our. Yes, absolutely. I need the chairman up here. Come on, Jim. Yes, we do have some plans to expand, and Jim will highlight more on the relationship with the.
Esther will be deeply involved in the programming of the expansion, but I've been all the county commissioner relationship dealing with the county. And yes, we don't own the land, so anything that we go for funds, either state or federal, the county has to present to them and request the funds. And fortunately, we've been very successful thus far, and we have commitments of over $5 million. And we will be redoing the current location and with an addition of several thousand square feet. And we'll have more of a relationship with the library. There'll be some common area between the senior center and the Golden Gate Library. These were basically meeting rooms, common area kind of things. They're in the process of entertaining bids right now for engineering and architectural design. We should have, next week, we should have some input as to far as what that goes. Once that's done and we get going, next year, hopefully, we might stick a shovel in the
That's right.
Who knows? But everything you've talked about, impact fees, the land, we use the county land, which is really very, very nice. And the county has other land, as you know. And you don't have any relationship like with the county land people?
We do. I mean, it's not a direct tie.
Okay.
We are a private nonprofit, but they certainly they helped to be a catalyst to get the land trust going. So there's not a direct codified relationship, but we certainly talk on a regular basis about opportunities.
Well, the other thing that you did mention, there is a big movement to try to have more public-private collaboration in achieving these goals. And this is one where it's going to pay off, and it will happen. And I don't know which property will happen first, but it's going to happen because there's tremendous pressure in the housing area. I don't have to tell you guys that at all. But it will be exciting. The next 2 or 3 years are going to be very exciting in the low income and what'd you call it, workability?
Yeah, sustainability.
Sustainability.
Sustainable housing.
Yeah, and for not only the low-class seniors, but also for the people that have study jobs and workforce
Workforce housing, yeah.
workforce affordable. And I think that some of it will depend on where the land is and how fast it will get approved, and go through all the things. One of the things that's interesting in dealing with the commissioners is that you get great conversations with commissioners, but some of the commissioners don't quite understand how the county works when they go into the rest of the departments within the. That's right. Well, I think it's pretty obvious, but you get it done. And it's really patience and persistence. And it works. If it's solid, there isn't any question that they've been very responsive as far as the seniors center is concerned. It took me 1.5 years to convince them to lease me the building that we're now in. That's how kind of difficult it is. But I tell you, once you get them on board, I think that right now I'm pleased with the county commissioners.
Yeah. I would echo that and say that, there has been a lot of progress. And I think we've talked about just having models that we can show. And we're excited. I hope everybody, whether it's grand opening of this development, whether it's a grand opening of the Harmony, I think it's being renamed to Ecos at Santa Barbara. But, whenever we have an opportunity to have a facility, a development come open and people come out, we have the media, that's going to add excitement. So we're excited to get more of these types of successful models to continue the growth. And I think the commission is on board. I mean, I don't want to make jokes that it's verbal, but we hope that this is the year that we see the action follow the words. So now Jen's second question was, part of that, what the commission has been working on, we don't have a codified inclusionary zoning policy in Collier County. But if a developer comes in and says, I want to get a variance for development so I can, and I'm doing multifamily market rate rental, they started to set a precedent to say, okay, a percentage of your development has to be delivered as affordable. That's local level. That's not the state and federal funding we're talking about where somebody's watching and monitoring. So it does fall on county government then to monitor that. And it has been a question that Commissioner LaCastro asked, and now it's being brought up through Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for Commissioner Hall as well. And they have tasked county staff with making sure that there's very transparent information available. The monitoring does take place. I think it's just a matter of it coming out into the forefront so everybody knows, who's living in these units. So Allure, as an example, it's right near me. 10% was reserved for individuals making no more than 80% of area median income. I believe they went right to Collier County Public Schools, and 31 units got snapped up very, very quickly. And so everybody knows what the level of documentation requirement is to annually income certify to make sure that you don't end up with somebody living in a unit that was designed as affordable that no longer is income qualified for it. So we hope to see more transparency with it, and I've offered to be very much a part of that plan because that's something that we can certainly do, is to help with the income certification and even provide reporting to the community. So, yes, sir.
Back to the income question. Is the income verified off 1099 or W-2? And also, is there an asset evaluation besides income?
The question was how the income really was verified and whether there's an asset test. Now, for the senior development, I can say that it does not require an asset test. So, which is somewhat interesting, but if you have fixed income seniors that maybe had an IRA 401k, if they're depleting that rapidly because housing costs are far outpacing their income, that's designed for this. And it's tax return primarily, but if you're doing federal and state monitoring, you're probably looking at tax returns, W-2s, 1099s, and looking to make sure if there's asset income that flows through, that's counted. But it's not necessarily the money, an asset test. They don't have a limit on how many assets you can have. Now, as you go into more of the family and workforce, you may see asset tests involved there because obviously it's about the need and the demand. But it's typically it's a pretty comprehensive level. We're not just taking one W-2 or one paycheck stub. It's the tax return, which will help identify what levels of income are flowing in. If there's wage income, we need to see the W-2s. If there's self-employment income, we need to either see 1099s or we may need to see a corporate tax return if it's an S corporation. If it's sole proprietorship, the Schedule C should be included in the tax return. So it's pretty comprehensive review. I'll repeat it for the people online as well. It's a very good question. The question was, even with permitting changes, zoning changes, the cost of land is so high that how do you keep it viable for a developer to come in and keep things at an affordable level? And again, it takes creativity. We did, the taxpayers passed a $20 million surtax for acquisition of land for workforce housing development. That was another slow process, but hopefully we're supposed to see also, I believe in March, they're moving towards having a proposal plan together. So that's just another resource. That helps with land acquisition for housing that is affordable. As a land trust, that's part of the thing that we go out to find. When somebody asked about where do you get your financing? Well, through philanthropic means, even if you can offset a portion of it, maybe that's the gap. Maybe you're helping to take care of half of the land cost, but you try to find creative ways to do that. But also keep in mind, zoning changes can impact the value of land. And what I mean by that is if a parcel of land is worth X to a multifamily developer at market rate and they're getting 8 units per acre, if you're automatically adding 16 or possibly if it's in an activity center, you're giving 25 units per acre, but only if you're adding affordability, that land now becomes significantly more valuable to that affordable housing developer. There's another proposed plan which will change the zoning in the rural fringe mixed use district, which is called the RF MUD. Currently, I believe right now you can only get about 2 units per acre in that area, and there's a proposal to increase to 12.2 units for, again, 100% affordability, and also release some requirements to pay for transfer development rights. So by changing some of the policy to say, here's what the zoning is for that piece of land, but if you put affordability on, we're going to sweeten it, now it becomes more valuable. So that it may not be that expensive of a parcel of land because the value has to line up with what you can put on it. So if it becomes a bigger benefit to do affordability, it might add enough value to make it a viable project.
That's great. That's very helpful. One tack-on question here. The $20 million that's sitting somewhere, the county commissioners have got it under their beds or something like that, that was raised by this 1% sales tax. My understanding is that not a single dollar of that has been spent. Is that correct?
It is correct. It's been allocated to a separate sub-account, but it has not been spent as of yet.
Okay, my other understanding is they haven't spent it because they haven't got a mechanism to spend it. So could you just explain that?
I will be happy to. The question was about the $20 million surtax funding as more or less why it hasn't been spent, and you're absolutely right. There wasn't a plan. We've had the development community asking about it. We actually brought a proposal with McDowell to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee end of last year. And that kind of spurred the activity to say, okay, we need to have a plan. We need to have a request for proposals in place. Or as a community, looking at some of the lands that they own, that they might have to add take funding. If land was acquired by the county out of a particular fund, that fund might need to be made whole in order to release that land to be used for housing development, affordable housing development. So that's part of the conversation too. So staff is looking internally. Yeah, I would agree and share some frustration that you would have hoped that it would have happened a little bit sooner, but I can say that it's now become again a priority. The commissioners have, and I give Joe a lot of credit, and the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Every month there's a meeting and these same questions come up and they say, what are we doing? Staff is in the room and one of the commissioners, and it happens to be Commissioner Hall now, and they put a lot of pressure to say, these are the initiatives, these are the things, we have resources, let's get them put out to use. And once again, I know the county has a lot to deal with. I don't take it lightly. I think the commissioners and county housing staff, they have a tremendously difficult job because things are constantly changing. And again, you throw a hurricane into it, and that shifted everybody's priorities, unfortunately. So no excuses, but it is definitely a plan that we should see this year. We should have a solidified request for proposals so everybody will know. And I don't think that 20 million is going to go all that far. I think it'll be, once it's made available, I think you're going to see a lot of activity and a demand. And they're going to set a set of criteria on how proposals are evaluated, and it's got a lot to do with leveraging. We're not just going to throw $20 million out on a couple parcels and build 100 units. You better show how you're going to leverage the usage of our money to acquire the land to provide. And so because it will be fairly competitive, I expect to see that money to be used to be well leveraged. You're welcome.
I've got a quick question for you. You mentioned the 1 unit, $531 a month. How fixed is $531? Is that going to be for 10 years, for 20 years?
It isn't fixed. As I mentioned, it fluctuates with the income level, but so as the area median income fluctuates up or down, it's tied to that. It represents approximately 30% of that 30% AMI level.
Well, as insurance goes up, that isn't going to be affected by the amount that they pay?
They can't. When you're locked into these income restrictions, 30% of whatever the area median income is the rent. HUD sets the rent cap for each year.
So this isn't really going to solve the problem. If it keeps going up, the median income keeps going up, people are going to have to, that's the thing I see. I mean, it seems like they're going to find the same thing. The rent's going to go up higher than what they can afford if they're on a fixed income.
Well, I can tell you that historically, the LIHTC deals, they typically will not price people out. I mean, if the income level is going up, and I know this is senior, but you should see a cost of living adjustment, hopefully, in Social Security. We don't know how long, but we've seen some increases that hopefully offset any increase to the rent because the income level should be increasing, but you may also see a decrease. I think we're at a pretty high income level right now, and as that goes down, you might see your rents adjust. I'm just letting you know that if you, following the data, if you look at low-income housing tax credit developments, they typically are not seeing massive increases one way or the other. It's a very minimal amount of increase or decrease year over year because it is attached. We've seen one of the higher increases in income that we've seen in some time, and I think it has a lot to do with people moving into the area working remotely. But having said that, they have to identify a set of rules, and these are the rules that they follow. It'll never become a market rate, so even if insurances go up, they can't pass that along to the tenant. The rent is set by HUD.
Okay, Billy, one question, and then we're going to close it for the night.
People at that lower income range are going to qualify for some other benefits, like housing allowances and food stamps. Will that be factored into their income?
It's potential. It depends on what the benefit is. And I don't know the exact list. The question was outside benefits if you're qualifying for food stamps. I don't believe the SNAP program is looked at as an income source that would disqualify you for rent. But I got to tell you, that's where we bring in the property managers that know those rules inside and out. And we help to collect the documentation, but they make sure that it qualifies. But it's not the intent. Now, if somebody's receiving a VA pension and disability and anything that's stacked up, those all have to be looked at and counted as an income level. But temporary benefits are not going to be.
2,000 people is a max potential number that could get diluted by income qualification.
No doubt.
Okay, thank you so much, both of you, as Sarah and Michael.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.